Arsenal are preparing for their FA Cup fifth-round clash against Mansfield Town on Saturday lunchtime, and the mood inside the Sober Realty Training Centre this week is one of genuine confidence mixed with careful management, because this is a club that is not just chasing one trophy right now, this is a club that is chasing four trophies in a single season. The Premier League, the FA Cup, the Champions League, the Carabao Cup. A fabulous four that would represent the most extraordinary achievement in Arsenal's modern history and cement Mikel Arteta's legacy as one of the greatest managers this club has ever had. And every single decision made between now and the end of May, every selection call, every injury managed carefully, every rotation executed intelligently brings this squad either closer to or further away from that almost incomprehensible dream. But before we get to Leverkusen in the Champions League next week, before we get to the Carabao Cup final at Wembley, before we get to the Etihad showdown with Manchester City that could decide the Premier League title, there is the small matter of a trip to Field Mill in Nottinghamshire on Saturday to face Mansfield Town in the fifth round of the FA Cup. And while the 183 points that separate these two clubs in the current league table suggests this should be comfortable, the FA Cup has a long and painful history of humbling the arrogant and rewarding the fearless, and Mansfield have already demonstrated this season that they are more than capable of causing problems for teams who underestimate them. Arsenal's route to this point in the competition has been impressively straightforward. A 4-1 win over Portsmouth in the third round, a 4-0 destruction of Wigan Athletic in the fourth, an aggregate score of 8-1 across two ties that suggested a team taking the competition seriously while also using it wisely as an opportunity to rotate the squad and give minutes to players who need game time. This is the first time Arsenal have reached the FA Cup fifth round since their record-extending 14th triumph in 2020. A run of 5 consecutive exits before the last 16 that made this kind of progress feel genuinely meaningful and genuinely important. And the context surrounding this particular FA Cup journey could not be more significant or more exciting. Because on Wednesday evening at the Amex Stadium, Arsenal produced exactly the kind of composed, disciplined and clinical away performance that title-winning teams deliver when they need to most, with Bukayo Saka netting early and the defence holding firm for the remainder to secure a 1-0 victory over Brighton that, combined with Manchester City's remarkable failure to hold on against relegation-threatened Nottingham Forest, has opened up a 7-point gap at the top of the Premier League table with just 8 games remaining, 7 points. City dropping 2 points at home to a side fighting to survive relegation, while Arsenal were winning on the south coast without playing particularly brilliantly. The footballing gods, for once, smiling on a team that has felt the pain of their indifference for too long. The mathematics of this title race are now firmly and clearly in Arsenal's favour in a way that they have not been at any previous point in this extraordinary season. Manchester City can now reach a maximum of 87 points. Arsenal can still reach 91. If Arsenal win all of their remaining games, they are champions regardless of what City do. Regardless of the Etihad showdown in April, regardless of every other result between now and the end of the season, win every game and the title is Arsenal's. Full stop. No caveats, no conditions, no relying on anyone else. City are no longer in control of their own destiny. Arsenal are. And that shift, happening on a Wednesday night in March with Arsenal winning in Brighton while City were being pegged back twice at the Etihad, is the most significant development of the entire title race since the very first kick of the season. But none of that context makes Saturday's trip to Mansfield any less important. An FA Cup exit at the fifth round stage against a League One side would be a devastating blow to Arsenal's quadruple ambitions and would hand every doubter and every critic the ammunition they need to question whether this squad can truly handle the pressure and the demands of competing on 4 fronts simultaneously. Arteta will not allow complacency to take hold. He never does. And the players who have been through enough painful lessons this season about what happens when the intensity drops even fractionally will arrive at Field Mill knowing exactly what is expected of them. The injury and availability situation heading into Saturday is complex and requires careful management. William Saliba is the most significant and most surprising absentee, the French centre-back having been left out of the Brighton squad due to an ankle injury that Arteta revealed after the match was sustained during the Chelsea game the previous weekend. Saliba managed to finish that Chelsea match somehow, Arteta explained, but was too sore to risk against Brighton. The severity of the injury is currently unclear, and the club have not provided a specific timeline for his return, but there are no indications of a lengthy layoff, and the focus within the Arsenal medical department is firmly on having Saliba available for next week's Champions League first leg against Bayer Leverkusen. That makes his involvement on Saturday against Mansfield relatively unlikely, with Christian Mosquera, who stepped in and performed admirably against Brighton, expected to continue in his place. Martin Odegaard remains doubtful for the Mansfield tie, with the captain still managing the knee injury that has been causing him problems since it was first sustained in the Brentford draw back in February. Odegaard is expected to return to full training within the coming week, but Arteta will not push him back into action prematurely, particularly with the Leverkusen games arriving rapidly and the need wide to have the captain fully fit for what promises to be the most intense and most demanding period of the entire season. His involvement on Saturday is relatively unlikely, and the team will need to find a way to function effectively without its most creative and most influential central midfielder for at least one more match. Ben White's situation continues to be the most mysterious and most frustrating injury update at the club, with Arteta confirming simply that the right-back is still not available and declining to provide any timeline or any indication of when he might return. White has now missed several consecutive matches without any clear public explanation of the nature or severity of the problem, and his absence has created a defensive imbalance that the squad has been working hard to compensate for. There are no immediate indications that he will be fit for Saturday. Declan Rice, despite having sustained a knock during the Chelsea game and coming off in the 76th minute, was declared fit for Brighton and completed 90 minutes on the South Coast. However, with the intensity of the schedule that lies ahead and the physical demands of competing on four fronts simultaneously, Arteta would be wise to consider giving Rice a rest against Mansfield and protecting him for the week ahead. Rice is too important to this Arsenal team in the games that matter most to be risked in a cup tie where rotation is not just acceptable but genuinely sensible. The most surprising absentee from Saturday's squad will be Miles Lewis-Skelly, who has been suspended after picking up yellow cards in both of Arsenal's previous FA Cup matches this season against Portsmouth and Wigan. For teams entering the FA Cup in the first round or beyond, just 2 bookings in the competition are sufficient to trigger a 1-match ban, and Lewis-Skelly's double caution means he must sit out the Mansfield tie. The timing is deeply unfortunate for Arteta because Lewis-Skelly had been identified as the perfect solution to the midfield availability issues the squad is currently navigating, and was even due to start in the centre of the park against Wigan before Ricardo Calafiori's warm-up injury forced a last-minute change of plan. His absence removes what would have been an ideal and natural midfield option and forces Arteta to look for alternative solutions in a central area that is already stretched by the absences of Merino and the doubts around Odegaard and Rice. Mikel Merino remains the one certain long-term absentee, having undergone surgery on a broken foot that has cast his involvement for the remainder of the season into serious doubt. The Spaniard has been a significant figure in Arsenal's midfield when available, and his absence is felt as a combination of technical quality and physical presence that the squad has not been able to fully replace. With all of those absences and doubts, the midfield picture for Saturday points most clearly towards a combination built around Kai Havertz, returning from his own muscular injury and operating in a central role. A creative and dynamic option who brings intelligent movement, technical quality, and the kind of decisive contributions in the final third that can change games against well-organised lower league opposition. Ebereki Ez and Christian Norgård are other options, with the same midfield combination that started so effectively against Wigan potentially being revisited. Max Daumann, who recovered from injury and was on the bench against Brighton, could receive his first senior minutes since November, and Arteta will be keen to give the young forward an opportunity to continue his development in a fixture that represents a perfect environment for that kind of experience. Viktor Gyökeres is expected to lead the line again and will be hungry to add to his extraordinary goal tally after blanking against Brighton. The Swede's record in away games this season has been remarkable, with 5 goals and 1 assist in his last 7 away fixtures across all competitions, and a performance at Field Mill that produces another goal contribution would maintain the momentum and the confidence that has made him one of the most feared strikers in Europe since his summer arrival. Bukayo Saka, coming off the back of a goal against Brighton, is a player who deserves rest ahead of the Leverkusen games and the Carabao Cup final at Wembley, and Arteta may well make the decision to protect him on Saturday given everything that is scheduled to follow. Noni Madueke and Gabriel Martinelli provide quality wide options that can handle a fifth-round cup tie with full capability. The broader picture as Arsenal prepare for Mansfield is one of a club that has never been better positioned to achieve something historic. 7 points clear in the Premier League. In the Champions League last 16 against Bayer Leverkusen with a favourable projected path through to the final. In the FA Cup fifth round with realistic ambitions of going all the way to Wembley. And with the Carabao Cup final on the horizon representing yet another opportunity for silverware at the home of English football. Arteta has spoken often this season about writing the club's own destiny, about taking each chapter as it comes, about not looking too far ahead or too far behind, but focusing entirely on what needs to be done in the next 90 minutes. And the next 90 minutes require Arsenal to go to Field Mill on a Saturday lunchtime, respect their opponents, play with the intensity and the quality that defines this team at its best, and progress into the FA Cup quarter-finals while protecting the players who matter most for the enormous week that follows. Mansfield will be loud, Mansfield will be motivated, Mansfield will have an entire town behind them dreaming of one of the greatest upsets in FA Cup history. They have already shown in this competition that they can cause problems for bigger clubs on the right day, but Arsenal are 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Arsenal have won 3 straight matches with growing confidence and growing belief. Arsenal have a squad that has been through pressure and through pain this season and come out the other side with the scars and the wisdom that makes a team genuinely dangerous when everything is on the line. Mansfield will give everything they have on Saturday. Arsenal will be ready for it. And come full time, this club will take another step towards the most extraordinary season in its modern history. The quadruple